Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Amanda and today we are here with a new series and this is how to fill your sketchbook. I have been wanting to do videos like this for a while and I have done in the past, but I have trouble with the fact that there's a lot of ideas in one video and we can't get into depth about a certain subject and it's just very fast paced. I do like fast paced, but I would prefer to have an option where I can just talk about the thing that I'm doing and just chill and have fun, and also might be easier for you to join in. So if you want to grab your own sketchbook, then go ahead and do that and follow along with me. If you want to paint the same thing, I'll leave a picture in the description, and if you don't, then you don't have to. You can use your own references or find one yourself. The materials that I'm using are Holbein gouache and Winsor & Newton, but mainly Winsor & Newton gouache because I'm using the Permanent Yellow Deep from Winsor & Newton, the Permanent Rose, Ultramarine Blue and the white. They're all Winsor & Newton, and then I'm using a Burnt Umber from Holbein. I'm just trying to get through my Winsor & Newton gouache as quick as possible. They are really good paints, but I want to have one brand and I really enjoy painting with Holbein compared to Winsor & Newton. When Winsor & Newton are working, when it's working and it's out and it's fresh, it's really good paint, but I think that the longevity of Holbein is a little bit more prestige in my opinion. So yes, but you can use whatever material you want to use. You don't have to use gouache, you can use graphite, you can use markers, you can use watercolor, acrylic, oil, whatever you want to use, you can use it. It's up to you. Just have fun and get in your sketchbook and start filling up those pages. One of the things that I love about doing these landscapes is the fact that there's no drawing involved. I don't know if you've noticed, but recently I've kind of moved away from drawing as much. I do still love drawing and I think that I would get better at it if I actually tried, but I am quite bad at it. I'm not bad, but I think that painting really does actually help me in my sense of how to see properly, because with painting I tend to look more for the shape and the form and the value rather than the line and the contour. So it's much easier for me to understand it in my brain, and I love layering shapes on top of other shapes to make the shapes that I'm looking for, if that makes sense. So I still think that you're using your drawing skills to do this, but you're more focused on the value and the shape, and it does help your drawing skills in the future. It's almost like it's carving it out, like it's weird to explain it that way because it's not 3D, but if you are putting shapes on top of other shapes to make different shapes, then it's like you're carving out the drawing as you go, or the painting rather, as you go, and it's really fun to do, and it is my favourite way to paint and I love doing it. I actually filled up a whole Moleskine sketchbook with landscapes, and you can do the same as well, or you can just do whatever you want in your sketchbook. It doesn't have to be serious, but I like having a sketchbook that's for a certain thing and then having another sketchbook for something else. But it's so easy just to sit down and do landscapes, and I feel like when I actually sit down to do a landscape, I just want to do more and more and more. I don't want to stop. So that might not be the same for you. You might actually hate it. I do realise that, but if you find something that you love to draw like that, then I think it's really important to hone into it and not worry about what other people think or what you think that you should be doing or shouldn't be doing. If you're enjoying it and you want to pursue it, then go ahead and do it. Don't hold back. Since this is the first episode of this series, I want to talk a little bit about sketchbooks themselves and the fact that people have a lot of fear surrounding sketchbooks, and I do understand it, but at the same time I don't, because I've gotten over that fear and I can't even remember having that fear anymore. But I want people to get to the same stage as me where they don't feel like they have to treat their sketchbooks like precious pieces of artifacts. They can use them, and that's what they're there for. They're there to practice in and to learn from and to experiment in, and they're there for just, you know, having fun. And I really do think that it's important to keep a sketchbook, and maybe not even just one sketchbook, but multiple sketchbooks. You could have one where you try and work out rendered pieces, because it is important to practice finished pieces as well and add details and stuff like that. But you could also have one that's just for junk throwing, like just for pencil, just for shape and form, just for value, just for anatomy or landscapes or whatever you want to draw. Like, I was thinking about having one for food, landscapes, anatomy, just all the different things that I want to draw, and then I can actually see my progress a lot better in those particular subjects where I start from the beginning, and by the time I've finished the sketchbook, it's all just one subject, so I can see them really clearly and how I have progressed or not progressed. And I think it's a lot easier to wrap your brain around rather than having loads of different sketches of different things in one book. Now, if you find the perfect sketchbook that allows you to do that, then please holler my way, because I have still yet to find that. And I think I could use certain sketchbooks that I already have for that purpose, but I feel like if I find a sketchbook that I like to paint in gouache with, then I will just paint with gouache. I won't draw in it, even though the sketchbook might be good for drawing in. I just feel like I prefer to use one medium. So you could even have different sketchbooks for different subjects and mediums. So if you want to draw faces in gouache, then have a sketchbook for that. But if you also want to draw faces in pencil or marker, then have a sketchbook for that. I was going to say Facebook then, that was weird. But yeah, different sketchbooks for different things are really good. And another way to combat your fear of sketchbooks is to buy cheap ones or to make them yourself. The pad that I bought of paper was £6 or something. I used scrap bits of cardboard. I used paint that I already had. I used string that I found. Well, I bought the string as well, but that was like £1.45, and I used a needle. And these are things that generally people will have in their house, and if not, your gran or your mum or somebody will have something like that. And if not, then they are really cheap to buy, and I think they're cheaper than sketchbooks as well, and you can get a lot more of value out of it for your money. So if you make your own sketchbooks, you might be less scared to start in them, although I have been terrified to start in my handmade sketchbooks because I'm like, I made that, I don't want to ruin it, it's like perfect now. But it is really good to have something that you've made in your hand, and since you've already made it with your own hands, you may as well finish it with your own hands and draw in it and use it for its intended purpose. Now, getting back to the actual landscape that I'm doing right now, you can see that it's very warm toned, but then I punch in a little bit of this purple and it makes it really cool looking and really just not right, I think. I do that a lot. I tend to add purple in where it doesn't belong, and I think it's because I find it really hard to mix a very cool blues, so I do add a black to my palette so that I can mix the black and the blue together to make a really nice cool blue to go in these mountains, because I wanted the mountains to be blue, and then in the foreground you'll see that it's like green, obviously, because it's a hill with daisies on it, and I really enjoyed painting this. I had so much fun with the sky and really practicing blending oranges with blues without making it go green. That was a really big thing that I set out to achieve when I started this painting. That's another thing as well. If you are doing paintings and you want to learn something in particular, you can definitely keep that in the back of your mind when you are doing the paintings so that you can learn. I have been struggling with making sure that the yellows and oranges in the sky doesn't intertwine too much with the blue, because I've been studying skies quite a lot recently. Well, by studying them, I mean looking at the actual sky. And when there is a really strong yellow in with the blue in the sky, I do notice that there's a big chunk of white, in between it to kind of transition into each of the colours. So obviously with gouache you would just put a white in between, but how are you supposed to do that with watercolour? I guess you just put water in between. It's really hard to try and figure out where exactly the colour starts and stops and where it joins together. And I think that with oranges and blues it has been really hard for me to make it not go muddy and green, but I think that I really achieved this here. Even though I did mix the blues a little bit with the oranges, it didn't come off too green. It still looks quite blue and orange. They look separate but melded together a little bit, and that was with the white really helping kind of mingle those two together. So I'm really happy that I did that. And I can't wait to do more landscapes again, even though I just did a whole year of them. I do really want to try my hand at actually making landscapes that are a little bit more finished and less sketchbooky. And I think the way to combat that is to do it on a bit of paper that's not just in my sketchbook. I have actually bought a pad of Archie's watercolour paper and I'm really excited to use that again. I haven't used it since like 2018 or something, and I'm really excited to use it. I'm going to cut it up into bits and just do some landscapes on there and see where that takes me. And I'm also excited to use some of my own reference pictures because I do go a lot of places with my dad and we take lovely photos of the area around us. We go right along the coast. We've been a lot to the west coast, I think, or maybe it's the east coast. I have no idea. Like, what way am I facing? Never eat. I think it's east coast. Yeah, it's east coast. We've been along the east coast quite a lot. We have barely touched the west coast, but I'm really excited to go around the west coast and see what's happening there. But I have hundreds of reference photos to use and to experiment with in the painting thing. And I think that is better because it's like more unique, obviously. With a lot of artists online, they do use the same sites like Pinterest and Unsplash and Pixabay and stuff like that. But the reason why I use Unsplash is because I haven't really noticed many people mentioning Unsplash. They mention Pixabay quite a lot and Pexels and obviously Pinterest. So I like the fact that I feel like I'm special. I'm like the only artist on that website. I'm kidding. There is a lot more, and obviously I'm encouraging other people to use it too because it's such a good website. But I do feel like sometimes you can get a little bit bogged down by the fact that you've painted something, you're really happy with it, and then you scroll down in Instagram and somebody else has painted the exact same picture as you. It's obviously got their own twist on it and yours has got your own twist on it, but it is quite would I say discouraging maybe? I don't know, but I think that it's more rewarding when you use your own reference photos, and I have been really looking at the world in a different way recently to try and get the best pictures that I can for my way of painting, and I am really excited to implement that into my work. Now, all of this that I'm showing you on this landscape painting is a little bit of a waste of your time because I do cover it all. I go over it and change the tone to a more blue tone, but I just thought that I would show you the process because this is what we're here for. Again, I didn't get it right first time, but I didn't just give up and move on, which I could have because it's your sketchbook, you can do whatever you want. I decided to go back in and change it to a tone that I actually preferred. Now, I haven't used gouache in a while. I've been really diving into oils, and I will get to a video about that eventually, trust me, but I haven't really been using gouache that much, and coming back to gouache is quite hard because it does act in a completely different way, and obviously it is a lot easier in some ways to use, but also a lot harder in some ways. And I think the hardest part for me was the fact that it does reactivate once you put it down, and I think that I'm kind of confused because when I've been using oil, it is really hard to blend, but also easy to blend. Like, it's too easy to blend in some places and some things, but it's also hard to blend because it gets muddy easier. But with gouache, I don't know, it's really weirded me out. Like, I didn't mind the colour shift and the change for a while there, but since I've been trying to do more intricate pieces and I've been trying to layer quite a lot on top, it does tend to get harder and harder to do that very quickly. So I think that maybe I might go back and try acrylic gouache again. Am I silly? Yes, I am probably silly. I do like using normal gouache and I think there is a place for it, but again, I'm just like, I never know when to use what medium. Obviously, if I was going to put down, like that chunk of grass there at the bottom, if I was going to put down a dark grassy area, I would probably do that with acrylic gouache and then maybe go on top with more acrylic gouache and more acrylic gouache because it would layer easier. But as for all of the blendy parts in the background and in the middle, I probably would prefer to use normal Holbein because I do tend to blend it straight away, so that wouldn't be an issue about it drying and stuff, but if I do screw up and want to change it, then obviously normal gouache is a little bit more forgiving. Oh, by the way, I cut out most of me just filling this up with blue because you'd already watched me lay down the paint here. I'm just basically going over all my shapes with different values of blue, so that's what I'm doing. I don't know why we got onto the subject of the mediums that I'm using, but I just thought that I would tell you because it's been a while since I've actually talked to you about anything to do with art and to do with me and to do with what I'm doing, so I thought that I would just throw that in there, and I hope that you enjoyed that little side track there. But other than that, as to do with how to fill your sketchbook, I think that the answer is, and we could just end this series right here and just say, just have fun and do what you want. But obviously I want to continue this and show you different things that you can do in your sketchbook when you're bored and have no idea what you want to draw. So I will eventually do that, but we are starting here with these landscapes. And I encourage you to try this more than once. Obviously, the more you do, the more pages you will fill in your sketchbook, and if it doesn't come out right the first time, then it doesn't matter, just turn the page. Once you've turned the page, you can forget about the last one or take the things that you learned from it and try again, and then you've got it right there in the book. You can see the first rendition that you did of it, and then you can see I tried to improve this rendition of it, and I think that that's really unique and special, that you can go back and look at your progression and see where you did wrong and what you could do to improve. So I really hope that you are not afraid to use your sketchbook and that you pull it out once in a while and you start using it. I think I have the opposite problem actually, so if anybody could tell me how to fix my problem, I have a fear of a single sheet. It doesn't matter what quality it is, like if it's a printer sheet or if it's a piece of watercolor or if it's arches or if it doesn't matter what kind of paper it is. I have a fear of setting out to complete a piece that's not attached to a book because I'm like, this has to be perfect. It's a painting. It's got to go somewhere. It's got to be something. It's going to be just dangling about in my room somewhere, probably in my folder full of other past single sheet pieces that I've done. But I don't know, I have this fear of trying to do it, and I know that it's just a bit of paper. If I don't like it, I can screw it up, or I can dig it underneath all of the junk that I have in my house and never look at it again. But I don't know why, I just feel really stressed out when I try and do it. I'm trying to get over that. That's why I bought the Arches paper, because I want to really try and sit down and put as much detail into a piece as possible. And you need the right paper for that, because if you don't have the right paper, you're not going to be able to put the same amount of layers in as you could if you used a good paper. This sketchbook paper, however, well, it's not sketchbook paper, it is actual watercolor paper, but it's really good for moulding into a sketchbook. It works really well with paintings, and especially gouache. It seemed to take all the layers that I wanted it to take. It didn't really buckle at all, and it was really nice to use, and I really do highly recommend it. So I can't wait to paint again in this sketchbook. I don't know what I'm going to do next, but we'll see, and you can find out with me together in part 2 of this lovely video. We're not finished yet. I just trying to get all my thoughts out as soon as possible. Another thing that I have seen people say about sketchbooks, is that they don't want to waste their time in sketchbooks, because if they do make a piece that they really like, then they can't sell it. Well, that is where you're wrong. You can actually sell full sketchbooks if you want. A lot of people sell sketchbooks. I don't think I could part with mine, but if that's something that you could potentially do, then you can work in your sketchbook as if it's just a sketchbook for you and then later on sell it. You could also scan your work into the computer and print off prints. You could do sketchbook postcards like a lot of the artists do. You could even scan in a bunch of pictures that you really like and make it into a book itself. There's so many things that you can do with a sketchbook that doesn't involve just having it in a sketchbook and leaving it forever. So I do highly recommend that you experiment with sketchbooks if you haven't. But if you are quite well versed in sketchbooks, then I'm sorry, that probably really annoyed you. You didn't really want to hear all that. But we are on to our favourite part. I cut out most of the grass painting because my hand was faced in a certain way that you couldn't see it. I am thinking about and planning to add a second view, but just the way that my setup is right now, it's really hard for me to do that, but eventually I will get that done. But anyway, so that you could have seen that. But we are putting in the little daisies, and this is what drew me to the picture in the first place, was that there was tiny little daisies, and they do not look like anything like what they did on the actual painting or picture to start with anyway. They are a lot brighter. They're just white, whereas I can see a lot of shadows and stuff in the flowers themselves, but I didn't want to put too much detail into this, so I just left them white. And also they are not in any way, shape or form the right sizes or in the right place, or there isn't as many of them as there is in the picture. But I really enjoyed doing this, and maybe I might have enjoyed it better if I had a smaller brush, but I think this is the smallest brush that I had. But I really enjoyed doing it, and I think it just gives the painting a little pop, and it draws your eye upwards, I believe, because the grass is pointing upwards and some of the daisy petals are pointing towards the sky. So you look at the daisies and then your eye is drawn towards the mountains, and then there's a little flow there where your head goes back and forth to follow the flow of the mountains, and then you get to the sky. So I think that composition works really well. It wasn't me that made it up, somebody else took this picture, so definitely go and show that picture some love. I don't know who did it, but I will link it in the description below. And yeah, I just really enjoyed doing this and putting in all the little details. And I don't know if you watched my last video, but I did mention that putting in the white details with gouache is my favourite part, even though it was a watercolour video. But, you know, I was talking about trying to leave the whites, and there is ways that you can do that, but I just haven't really experimented with that yet. And I think that I should probably do that in my sketchbook. Maybe we will play a little bit with watercolour in my sketchbook too, because I haven't done that much, and I really want to try doing it a little bit more. Sorry about my head as well. With the sketchbook, I get really close to it. Oh, this is one thing that I wanted to talk about as well. I always see these TikTok videos or YouTube videos where the artists peel off the washi tape, and it's so gracious and it's so satisfying. But when I do it, something always goes wrong. Like, it doesn't come off in one fell swoop. I take the wrong side off first. I can't peel it off like I'm doing now. The sketchbook moves. It's just not pretty. I really want to get better at that. So I'm going to practice that for you for next time, so that if I do have to peel off washi tape, I can. But anyway, here's the finished piece. I hope that you really enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up and comment below and tell me. And also hit the notification bell if you want to get notified of any other videos that I post. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.